So in today's video, I'm gonna get into some very specific details that if you plan to live in Virginia Beach, these are things that will help you figure out where to move to and some local tips that even I didn't know until recently that I think very few people know in this area. And we're starting right now. Hey, my name is Sam Sansalone and I'm a real estate agent in the Hampton Roads area. That goes from Virginia Beach through Williamsburg, and I do videos every week about living and moving to the area. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is jet noise, but specifically where the loudest jet noise is. And this might surprise you. So one of the biggest drawbacks to living in this area is that you might be living close to the Oceana Naval Air Station, which can be a benefit because it's a big draw of the military and a business and jobs here. But if you live too close, it's gonna get really loud, and in very random spots of the day, you might have your conversation stopped for 10, 20, 30, 40 seconds, and it can be ear-piercing depending on where you live. So that's why you hear me talk a lot about jet noise, and there's some spots I just don't wanna live near because it's too loud for me. I just don't like it. A lot of locals disagree, but me, I'm not a big fan. However, there is one tip that I think will help you figure out if the spot that you might be considering has more jet noise in certain times or less. So I'm gonna share my screen with you and show you the aerial view of the Oceana Naval Air Station. Do you see that the runways, they run northwest to southeast or the northeast to southwest? So they put those there for specific reasons. What I realized over talking to some locals, and shout out to Trey and his dad for giving me this information, is that the wind direction is a big differentiating factor between which direction the airplanes will take off from. If there's a northern wind coming to town, that means that there's wind coming from the north. In planes, if there's a northern wind, fly from the south to the north. So they fly into that wind. So the reason that matters is that depending on the direction of the wind, that will influence greatly the direction that the airplanes will fly out of the Oceana Naval Air Station. So now I'm gonna go to another website called WeatherSpark. I like WeatherSpark because you can enter in a city, get more detailed information about the weather, more than just like the average temperatures themselves. And one of the things you can look at is the wind and the direction of the wind. And you see on this heat graph, if you will, there are different colors that associate to different directions of the wind. And based on the time of year, you have a higher majority of wind direction coming from a certain direction. So for example, in April, May, into July and August, you'll see here that the red indicates a southerly wind. That means that there's a larger majority of the wind directions in the spring, late spring into the summer through the summer time period come from the south. On the flip side, see the north. There's a larger majority of winds coming from the north in the January, February time period, as well as the November, December time period, as well as more westerly winds in that area time period as well. But looking at the runway directions, that means that in the south, there's a greater chance that planes will take off into that wind, meaning they might fly from the northeastern side going south, southwest into the wind, which means that in the summertime, there's a greater chance that the London Bridge Road area, Dam Neck Road area, Holland Road area, this whole section southwest of the Oceana Naval Air Station would have a higher propensity of planes flying in that direction, which means a greater chance of noise. If you like running near your neighborhood in the summertime and you don't like jet noise, well, there's a greater chance that you might find more of a concentrated, louder jet noise amount in this section as planes fly southwest into that southerly or southwesterly wind. If you're looking at a spot in the north and you're concerned about jet noise, there's a greater propensity for noise in the north side to be a higher concentration in the wintertime based on that graph I just showed you. So that's one important thing, that if it does matter to you, it might change where you want to live in Virginia Beach. That leads me to number 2, which is know the grocery stores that are closest to you, because the grocery stores that are closest to you might be a good representation of what the feel of that area is like. So now Food Lion has the highest, I'd say the highest concentration of grocery stores in Virginia Beach and really all of Hampton Roads, I think. And now if you've never been to Food Lion, it's kind of your basic grocery store. Nothing too fancy. It's honestly kind of blah. I really don't like Food Lions personally. But there are others that are newer. Harris Teeter, Kroger, Wegmans is my favorite in Town Center. Harris Teeter and Kroger are probably the two primary ones, separate from like neighborhood Walmart, Lidl, Aldi, separate from Food Lion. And I want to talk about Food Lion because Food Lion, again, has the most concentration, but it's the oldest grocery store I've seen anywhere in the area. And so you'll see that Food Lions are most concentrated in areas that are older, built in an older time period, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. So when you see a Food Lion, and you can just do a map search, look up Food Lion and see where all the Food Lions are. You see they're kind of scattered around, right? But there's kind of more of a concentration on the western side of the area, which ironically is a part of the area that has the highest concentration of older houses. It's not that every Food Lion, if you're near there, it's a problem, but it'll definitely give you a good idea that good chance there's some older pockets close to that Food Lion. It just kind of gives you a tip like, oh, okay, if I see the house near Food Lion, might be an older neighborhood. Let me just do some more due diligence to figure out if I really like this neighborhood and if this grocery store is the specific one I'm going to be going to on a regular basis. Will I want to do that? To me, this is an important thing. I'm a big grocery store guy, and it seems weird to say that, but I am. I think grocery stores are important. I like going to the grocery store. Whatever. So to me, I would not want to go to a Food Lion as my primary grocery store. So that leads me to number 3, which is what flood zone is the house that you're living in located in? Now, people often think about Virginia Beach and they think, oh my gosh, it's gonna flood a lot. Well, actually, I would say that it's not actually gonna be that way. Usually it doesn't flood very much in most of the area. There are some very specific spots that do have houses that lie in high-risk flood zones, namely AE. AE is the zone that has the highest amount of houses that are located in an area that require flood insurance. There are also Zone X, X500, those are the 3 primary, but AE is the one that you'll need flood insurance in. And so, you know, sometimes around the edges of the coast, you might find some that actually don't need flood insurance, but if you get closer to the beach, closer to some sections near Alaskan Road and towards 21st Street, in this section, you'll see need some that need flood insurance, and also going further south, and then some in the central part. And this is kind of where, like over into Bow Creek, this area over here that it flooded like 6-7 years ago. It decimated some neighborhoods in the center part of Virginia Beach. That's getting rectified and fixed, but some drainage problems in that area for a long period of time, as well as over even into Asheville Park. We talked about that in a specific Asheville Park video. So part of the idea here is to note that just because you're not near the water doesn't mean that you might not have some flooding issues. Just because you're near water doesn't mean you will have flooding issues. It really is dependent on the location and drainage. And so just definitely do some research on that to find out for sure if your area needs flood insurance. Not as much because of the actual flooding itself. That's important, but the main thing is because when you buy a house and your house needs flood insurance, that flood insurance premium is not necessarily calculated into your total payment. And if no one thinks that there's flood insurance, you won't know this until like the week 2 or week 3 into your process, and you might be buying a house expecting a certain payment, but actually that payment will be bumped up because of flood insurance that you did not know you needed. And then your lender calls you in week 3 and says, hey, you need flood insurance, your payment's actually gonna be higher. Sometimes it means, of course, higher payments, or sometimes it can mean you then don't qualify anymore if there's too much flood insurance that's needed and you can't qualify. So it can make a big difference. Do this research up front, then it can give you an idea of what your true mortgage payment will be based on that flood insurance. If you do need flood insurance, make sure you get an elevation certificate, and that is basically something that helps gauge where the property lies, and it helps insurance companies, and you'll often get a reduced policy if you have that elevation certificate. Then the next thing is watch your tolls. Make sure you watch where the tolls are. Virginia Beach doesn't have specific tolls itself, but if you are working in a different part of Hampton Roads and you plan on living in Virginia Beach or vice versa, so commuting from one city to another, there are sneaky tolls that are plopped across the area that if you do like your research as far as like driving directions, how far it takes to get to your work, you know, etc. If you don't factor in the tolls, you might you might be stuck, or at least you're going to be paying a lot more to drive every day than you might want. So for example, you've got the Midtown Tunnel, Downtown Tunnel, 2 tunnels here. They both require tolls. And so if you're not used to tunnels, we used to not need tolls in those tunnels, but now we do. And so that's a couple dollars each way. Get an easy pass and it'll save you some money. South Norfolk Bridge. This is a tricky one, not because you might be driving over it all the time, but the GPSs, the Google Maps, the Wazes, they might send you on this route through this bridge because it's the quickest way. But if you don't put on the map, say filter out routes that include tolls, you might get sent on that bridge right there, and you might be paying several dollars one way and then several dollars the other way going back just to backtrack back to where you were because the map thought that that was the best way. I've done that before until I got close and I realized, oh shoot, I think that's $4 now each way, but it's a great cut through if you need it, otherwise it's annoying. Another big one, the Veterans Bridge, which is probably the newest one now, Route 17. If you live in Virginia Beach and you're commuting towards the west side or going through the south part of Chesapeake, you might not realize that this road going over the Elizabeth River over towards 64 has a toll. Turn off tolls on your directions because you'll easily get sent across that bridge, but before you know it, you're across it and you have no choice. You're already paying the toll. There are some other ones that will be more like HOV or those bypass lanes that are gonna be built up on, for example, near the high-rise bridge, where you can choose if you wanna go on the lanes that will charge you, but like there are gonna be toll roads on 64 going east and west over here, as well as there are also tolls, HOVs going on the 64 east and west on the north side as well. Make sure you go on your map and search for directions that don't include directions taking you through toll roads. This can really make a big difference, and it might change the house that you buy based on where it is in relation to your job. Watch to see how close you are to parks, Virginia Beach parks, or Virginia Beach rec centers, because being close to a park or a rec center, Virginia Beach Rec Center, can make a big difference between A, how nice it is for you to live, like how enjoyable it is to live, and also resale value can be helpful too because people like being near parks. So Virginia Beach has over 200 publicly funded parks in the city, and they range in sizes from tiny ones like little neighborhood ones, a lot of other smaller ones, and then there's some massive ones, for example like Mount Trashmore. It's one of the largest parks in the entire area. If you can have walking distance or even a few minutes drive to a large park, it's a big deal. There are 7 rec centers in Virginia Beach. There's SeaTac, Bayville, Williams Farm, you got Kempsville, Bayside, Bow Creek, and Great Neck. In all different parts of the area, there's one that's relatively close, but being very close, like so for example, if you can walk to one of them, it's awesome. So just check to see where all those are, and if you're close enough, you can save from going to the gym and paying, $100, $200 a month, and you can pay I think it's $110 a year now per person to be a member of the Virginia Beach Rec Center. Now the last tip that I think is going to be most helpful for people that are leaving a different state and coming here to Virginia for the first time is Virginia is a buyer beware state. So all the things I mentioned to you before about doing research, the reason I'm trying to encourage you to do research is that when you buy a house in Virginia, it is up to the buyer to do the due diligence necessary for them to feel comfortable, or for you to feel comfortable to buy the house that you want to. So for example, if you buy a house and you think, oh, I need the seller's disclosures and I need them to tell me the things that are wrong with the house. There are disclosures where a seller doesn't make any representations about the house, and it's up to you to do research and to do the due diligence to figure it out for yourself. So I help people all the time relocate from Virginia Beach through Williamsburg, and if you have any questions at all, please let me know. I've got my contact information in the description. You can email me, call me, text me at any point, and I'll do whatever I can to help you relocate to the area. That's what I do, and I love it. And I will see you on the next video.